Question everything in pursuit of your purpose. Ask yourself, what if?
Thank you guys for joining us again for another episode of the Pursuit of Purpose podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And today we have with us a special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
I am Rhonda Ward. I'm running to be your next state senator for Senate District 3.
All right.
Senate District 3.
Yes.
You know, saying that fast,
I know.
it's a bit of a tongue twister.
It's got a challenge to it.
Now you've had a lot more practice
Yeah.
than we
I've
have.
had a lot of practice.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
So-
not something we say often enough.
No.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I am from Nacogdoches.
Nacogdoches. We've had several friends and guests on the show from Nacogdoches. In fact, I hate to say this, y'all don't hold it against me, my friends, but one of my favorite guests is a guy we lovingly refer to as Dr. G. He's an import model.
Okay.
He came over here from Ukraine,
Okay.
and he immigrated the right way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He started out as a foreign exchange student. Then
Uh-huh.
he came here and went to college there.
Mhm.
Okay.
All the way. Up to
Yes.
PhD.
Wow.
And then he worked there also
Yeah,
at
he
the
worked
same
there.
time.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And now he's superintendent up at Diboll.
Okay. Well, that's in my
Uh,
Senate District.
Yes.
So he is
Blaine County.
he's moving on up. You know,
Yes.
we're really proud of him.
Good.
His story is
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
But so where were you actually born?
I was born in Houston.
Hmm.
And when I was 16, my dad wanted to move to the country. And he always came to St. Augustine, East Texas, to visit his grandmother. And so my parents looked around for places to buy in East Texas, and they settled on a property that was a house in 180 acres
Oh,
in,
wow.
in Shelby County. And
Nice.
so, and of course, Center, Texas was the address, but we were 18 miles from the city of Center and 21 miles from the city of Nacogdoches. So,
Oh,
yeah, I was thrust in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and
From the
even
city.
calling Center a city is
oh yeah, that's probably a stretch, but
Yeah.
you know, that's my hometown now. I went to
Yeah.
high school there, and
okay.
that's where I met my husband. So
Okay.
it's it was a good move. Of course, you know, at 16, you're just kind of thinking, I don't think this is too good a move, but you know, you just it's God has his plan. So
Mhm.
it
what
is-
he does, doesn't
yes,
he?
I
yes.
don't know why the show Green Acres comes to mind.
Oh,
Yeah.
it
What-
probably
When
could
they-
have been.
yeah, when Eddie Albert moves her out to
Yes,
the country, and,
yes,
and
yes.
she's like, "This is it."
Yes.
But they settled in and had a great.
I know.
Seemingly had
I
a great
just-
run. It was a good,
I
it was a
have
good show.
I adapted quite well from the city girl to the country girl
Yeah,
pretty quick.
yeah.
So
So
Yes.
what did they do with
Mm.
180 acres?
well, we did hay, and I have hauled hay. I've hauled hay. I can drive a tractor. We had cows. You know, we just they wanted to just get away from the city limits, from Houston. We didn't even live in the city limits of Houston when we moved. I didn't know it at 16, but
Right.
we actually lived in you know, of course, all of it's Harris County, but we actually lived outside the city limits even at that time.
What side of
But
Houston?
Northwest.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Aldine.
Yeah.
I went to Eisenhower to high school, middle school, and part of high school.
Okay.
So anyway, but
So
yeah,
most of your formative years you did spend there
till 16.
in the northwest side
Yes.
of Houston.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
how about siblings?
I'm the oldest of 4 girls.
The Trailblazer.
Yes, the oldest of 4 girls, no brothers. Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
4 girls. Your
Yes.
poor dad.
I know. So Dad had to teach 4 girls how to work a farm. And so-
I got a 22 rifle when I was 14 years old for Christmas.
yes.
And I remember I had my junior NRA certificate, and I was so proud of that. At the same time, I was modeling for Foley's in Houston. So I was a versatile.
Wow. You were, yeah, both
Yeah,
ends of the
it's
spectrum.
quite
that was-
eclectic.
Yes. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, I helped him. I remember we rebuilt a motor in my mom's car one summer. And he would get in from work, and I helped him do it. I learned to hone pistons. He taught me what was it? It takes spark, fuel, and fire. Spark, fuel,
And air.
and yes, and combustion.
Combustion.
Spark,
Yeah.
fuel, and combustion for a
Yep.
motor to run.
Yep.
And I still remember that. And I was about
That's it.
17 when he was 17 years old when I helped him do that.
That's
So
it. So you got some
anyway,
mechanic
yeah.
skills, some tractor skills, some
Yeah.
rifle skills.
yes.
All right.
So I'm curious. So being the oldest of 4,
Mhm.
what was discipline like in your childhood home?
Oh, my mom was an only child, but I tell people, you know, now, you know how I don't know, you hear these look, I hate the girls are like princesses, you know. We never, that term was never used in our home. And I tell people, I knew I was loved, very loved, but it was also I mean, you weren't that special. Do you know what I'm saying that? I mean,
Yes, I
you
agree.
were,
Yes.
I was like, to me, I look at it now and we've got the tail wagging the dog.
Mm.
And in our house, the tail did not wag the dog. So it was for 4 girls. She used to always say, I'm raising young ladies.
Nice.
So that was always her.
Well, good on her.
Oh, yes, no, and we are all, like I said, we've all, there was a time that she said, you know, they say that you should give your children roots and wings. And she said, I kind of wished I hadn't taken the wing thing so serious, so well, because we did. We went out on, I mean.
Y'all flew out. Y'all
We're
flew
not
out of the
we're
nest.
not the, you know, the boomerang kids that came back.
Right.
It just, you know, we all are married with our lives and our children and grandchildren. So
Are your sisters in the region or are
I have, my sister Rochelle lives in Maryville, Louisiana, and my sister Robin lives in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh,
Rachel, the youngest, lives in Victoria, Texas.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're,
Two of you stayed in God's
Yeah.
country. The bless the other ones. We'll
yes,
pray for
I
them.
know.
As long as they took some Texas with them.
right.
Oh,
right.
it's amazing. When I go up to visit my sister Robin in Lexington, there's Texas flags
Nice.
on the wall. And there is, yes, her husband was born in Nacogdoches
Oh.
and, they met there and then, his job took them to.
So they brought a lot of Texas
Oh,
with
they
them.
did.
That's
And,
good.
and I'm an 8th generation Texan.
That's
All
good.
of us girls are 8th generation
There
Texans.
we go.
So
Are there some lumberjacks in y'all's family? or-
well, I went to school there for a couple of years and
Okay.
so did Robin. So
Okay,
anyway,
okay.
but yeah, but it's a huge influence in our town.
Yeah, great
Huge
school.
influence. It's a good school.
Yeah, they
Great school.
obviously world reaching, looking at our friend.
Yes,
You know, he found
yes.
it was kind of funny. They said, you're going to go to Nacogdoches, Texas. And so
Uh-huh.
he looks up the only thing he can find for Texas in their limited search. And this is
Uh-huh.
Ukraine right after the wall fell. There's
Oh,
not a lot of access.
Yeah.
He thinks it's like cactuses and
Cactuses and cattle.
cattle,
Oh
you
my
know.
gosh.
And then he gets to East Texas
And
goes,
cowboy
this is gorgeous. He fell in love with it.
Yes.
Yeah. And he didn't go far. He's still
Yeah.
in our region,
Yeah.
our East
No,
Texas
we got-
region.
Pine trees.
Yeah.
So in your upbringing, you know, back on the northwest side
Uh-huh.
there, and then at the farm,
Yes.
did you get a lot of whoopings?
Yes, my parents did not, they did not adhere. I mean, they adhered to, spare the rod, spoil the child. So-
And I ask that of every guest,
Yes.
and it's
Okay.
important.
Yes.
The reason I think it's important is to illustrate that, you know, we have people on our show from all different walks of life and
Mhm.
all different pursuits, and all different manifestations of success.
Yes,
And you're no different.
yes,
You have a different story, but you are
Yes.
pursuing purpose towards success, and you've already attained some.
yes.
So
Yes.
I love to show that discipline,
Mm-hmm.
not just self-discipline, but corporal punishment
Yes.
and structured upbringing is a huge part of that.
Very big.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as you said earlier, you alluded to something that we're doing modernly in parental behavior
Mhm.
is we're almost worshiping our kids.
Mm,
Almost.
Absolutely.
We are taking it to where
hmm
we're pandering to them rather than structuring them.
Right.
And I believe it's a dangerous.
It's very
pattern.
dangerous.
So I love to ask those questions to
No, it's
see if
very
you
dangerous.
know
And we
people like yourself.
We didn't, my husband was raised the same way I was, as far as he was the oldest of 3 children. And, he was raised very similar as far as very much, you know, discipline in the household. And then I have 2 sons. And I remember, you know, I'm the oldest of 4 girls and we couldn't say stupid growing up. We had to say, you know, that's silly or something. We couldn't say, I mean, mother was very, you know, you couldn't say somebody told a lie. You had to say they told a story. So, I mean, really, it was just, you know, and I remember, you know, my son Chad, and he'll probably listen, I mean, he would listen to this. He was my child that pushed the envelope. I mean, oh my God.
But you got to have at least one.
Oh, we did, and we did. And he was my first, thank goodness, because I was young enough to handle that.
Mm.
But I remember hearing, you know, that's why kids need a mother and a father.
hmm
And I absolutely think that is what's wrong with our society right now.
It's a big part of it.
It's the family unit is broken,
Mhm.
and it shows in everything from our schools to our jails to every walk of life. But I do know that, I mean, I just remember thinking there was times that I thought he was a little hard on him, and I said, well, couldn't you have said that nicer? And he was like, I'm raising men. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay. And so then and I've said this to a lot of young women and especially this generation, let your husband raise your son to be a man
Mhm.
because you can't.
Mm.
That's a big fact right there.
That
That
As
is.
much as you think you can,
Mhm.
you can't.
Right.
You're a woman.
Right.
Let him raise that. And I have two amazing sons.
That's awesome.
men.
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 I have two amazing men.
Right.
And I know we're probably jumping ahead here.
No, you
but,
keep doing. No, this is.
Well,
just go.
I have married my high school sweetheart. I met Jason in between my junior and senior year of high school.
Mm.
His dad was a cattle buyer, and then he's a cattle buyer. So it's not like I moved from Houston and then married the banker's son. Oh, no.
Right.
Oh no. I fell in love with the cowboy. But now my dad rode bulls at Simonton in Houston. So
Okay.
it wasn't like it was a stretch for me to.
Mm.
I mean, my dad's always cowboy hat. I mean, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, but we met during high school, but we also went to the same church. We went to White Rock Missionary Baptist Church,
Mm.
at a little country church. And but anyway, we married right out of high school, and we were married 44 years. But he passed away in January of 24, a little over 2 years ago. He had pulmonary fibrosis,
Okay.
and it's when we're talking about raising men. My brother-in-law from Kentucky, David Hunter, was there. Of course, was a pallbearer, and they were flying back a few days later. And he said, Rhonda, he said, I talked to both of the boys, and I said, you call me anything you need. And then he said, Rhonda, they're not going to be calling me. And I said, what do you mean? He said, Jason has prepared them very well.
Come on.
That's
So,
awesome.
That is.
yeah. And I was like, and he was right.
Yeah.
They have, of course, we've all grieved over that.
Of
I mean,
course.
my gosh, it was my husband and the love of my life, and then their father. But I think, and I have a lot of people ask me this about how am I doing this now. I know exactly where he is, but I knew the moment he took his last breath where he was. I mean, like I said, we were always. We were both Christian kids. We were probably nerds in high school. He was a rancher guy, but I remember graduation night, my parents said we could stay out till 1:30, stay out past midnight.
Mhm.
And we were back at my parents' house by like 11:30. And we were like, it just wasn't a thing for us. You know what I mean? It
Yes.
just wasn't our thing. And we were just like, we're good. We'll just go back and watch John Wayne movies with my dad, So
That's
that's
great.
what we did.
Yeah.
But but that's, like I said,
Mm.
I agree with you about the children of where we're at now with these. And it's amazing that my boys are now my oldest son, Chad, has a daughter that's 16, and then two boys that are 8 and 7.
Mm.
And then Dylan has two boys, and they're 5 and 7 right now, but they're almost 6 and 8 in the next month.
Mm.
So, but they're raising their children very similar to the way they were raised. And it's, there's discipline, there's boundaries. It's not catering to the children. And I'm thankful for that.
Well, your
So,
sons and their families are definitely testaments to those
Oh.
values. That's good.
yes.
It's
Excellent.
also
Yes.
it's really great that
Mhm.
before your husband transitioned
Yes.
to his next adventure,
Yes.
he got to know and meet his grandkids.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He
That's
was Papa
that's
J.
really good.
He was Papa J. And he was a great Papa J.
That's good.
You honor him well the way
Yeah.
you tell your story.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, he's
well done with that.
well,
And
I met him just before I turned 17. So I actually met him when I was 16, and he was a great man.
you guys grew through life together.
We
Indeed.
did. We
Yeah.
did. And my mother said that. She said, when she was praying about it, when Jason said, we wanted to get married, and my mother was like, they're just so young,
Yeah.
And then she said, Lord, I just pray that they will grow old together,
Mhm. That's a
and
good prayer.
and so she kept praying, and we did,
Yeah.
So how many years married?
44 years.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
When
Yes.
you talk about our relationships with children as a counselor and substitute coaches, I try to remind these parents. I said, you really shouldn't idealize or idol worship
Right.
anything,
Right.
much less your children.
Right.
But they get that confused because they think if they deny them or deprive them, but for better reasons, then they're hurting them. I go, oh, the contrary. And sometimes when you ask them, you realize they didn't really have a good prerequisite in their parents.
Right.
And so they're kind of guessing.
Right.
And I think that's why they come in and talk to guys like us. We're allowed to mentor because they know it's not working.
Right.
They just don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They
So
need the tools.
that's right.
Yeah.
So hopefully we as,
Yes.
adults and in our society, we can just keep pumping out information to have people to pick up on it, or at least be curious enough to want more. I
Yes.
do get a lot of fair amount of single moms that come in and they bring their sons because they realize it's getting a little beyond their reach.
Yes.
Almost too late in a lot of cases,
Yes.
but usually we can have a little bit of influence. So,
Yes.
so it's good. It's good that your sons are engaged.
They are.
Yes.
They're very engaged.
Yeah.
So when you were young,
Uh-huh.
actually, I'm going to take you a little before you met him.
Okay.
What did you want to be when you grew up? Like,
Well,
say, when you were 10, 12 years old, what did you think you
I
wanted
was
to be?
always I always liked law or criminal justice. I remember this is, you know that you're in my high school yearbook, I went back and read some stuff and it said, don't take life so serious. Then another one said, you need to relax. And one of them said, don't be so tightly wound. And I'm
Oh,
thinking,
gosh.
and I'm reading all this going, was I really that, I was very focused,
Okay.
on, just very focused. But then I was also very aware that I was the oldest. And, then you set an example for your siblings. And I took that very serious.
Wow, that's not actually common.
Yeah.
The older sibling doesn't always take it on themselves to live as an example.
Oh no, my younger sisters call me a mother superior.
Ah!
When I would do something, or I would look at them and go, you are in trouble. They would go, okay, mother superior.
Oh, that's
So
great.
anyway, yes. But I was always trying to save them from something usually, so, I mean, from getting a spanking or getting grounded or something, so.
Oh, we need siblings to put us to the test.
Oh, I know.
To
Yes.
keep us humble.
Yes, but they are my biggest cheerleaders.
So you wanted to go into some form of law, or you thought you did?
I thought I did, yes.
So what did you do?
Well, we got married right out of high school.
Yes.
And I was in college when
Okay.
we got married, and I finished that first semester. And then I look back and realize, I thought, I think we did the Charlie Kirk thing before it was cool. Because we got married and we started a family and then we built a business. But he was self-employed he was a cattle buyer.
Mhm.
And then I worked at a law firm. I was a legal assistant.
Well, there you go. You lived your
Yes,
dream.
yes, I did.
Okay.
I was a legal assistant for about 5 or 6 years. And then he wanted to buy an outfitting business. And he's always done hunting. He's always
Yeah.
hunted huge. And so he's been to Alaska. When he was 14, he killed a huge 50-inch 50-inch wide moose on the Wood River when he was 14.
Good night.
And his dad got a doll sheep that year, and they used to have a place in Colorado when I met him. They had a ranch there, and so he always hunted mule deer and elk up there. And so anyway, we had this opportunity to buy an outfitting business, and I was like, "You go see if this is what you really want to do. I'm still going to stay here because I was back in school at SFA at this time." And so he went up there and worked part of August, September, October, November, during bow season and then rifle season. And he came back at Thanksgiving. I went up and visited him, and Chad and I did, my oldest son. And he was like, I really think this is what
He loved
I
it.
really want to do. And I was like, so I traded my suits and high heels, and we moved to Pagosa Springs, Colorado.
Go
and-
ahead.
Wow.
And we bought an outfitting business. And when we sold it, 12 years later, it was the largest outfitting business in Southwest Colorado as far as all the use days that we had.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we built a very successful outfitting business.
That is
Um,
amazing.
That
We
is.
did, we incorporated then snowmobile tours in the winter because, you have to have something to do in the winter.
Right.
And so we literally did, most people said we had a dream life.
A
there.
charmed
A
life.
charmed life
Yes.
anyway, but it was all, when we left, we both, he was in the truck and trailer with the horses, and because we had some horses there, but then we bought several horses, and I was in our vehicle pulling a travel trailer, and we both had Post-it notes on our steering wheel or on the dash that said, "Faith is making a decision with no guarantee of success."
Hmm.
That's
I like
that's
that.
good.
And that was on our
Yes.
refrigerator door for years
I like that.
because
Yes.
we didn't know if this was going to work or not, you know.
So how long did it last?
It's for about 13 years. Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's
we
a
did
pretty
very
good
well.
stretch.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We were, after a while, you know, it's 7 days a week. You know, it's a tourist business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it takes a toll on your
It's
your
exhausting.
family,
Yeah.
tourists don't know that it's your child's birthday.
Mhm.
Tourists don't know that it's Christmas Day, you know.
And
They
don't,
want to
they
go.
don't care.
They don't care.
No.
And it's your business, so you can't say something snarky like, "Do you realize it's Christmas Day or it's Christmas Eve?"
And they're
You
like,
just-
yeah, that's why I'm paying to be here.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm here to ski for Christmas and I want to go on a snowmobile tour. And you're like, okay. My children still believe in Santa Claus, you know, at this point. But, you know, we did close on Christmas Day. But other than that, I mean, we ran all the time. And we had, like I said, a very successful business. But it was just, like I said, he's an 8th generation Texan as well. And we've told people that we miss the Colorado we moved to, but we don't miss the Colorado we moved from.
Mhm.
We've heard some stories. We've had some guests on
Yes.
here about
Yeah.
the decline of
It-
Colorado
it
and the
was.
political
Well, see, we
climate
moved
that
there in
exists there.
89, 90, and
Yeah.
moved back in December of 02. So
Right.
we've been back 23. Yeah, we've been back longer than
Yeah.
we were ever there
Right.
for sure. But
That is just,
we've made some great friendships. We ran cattle also while we were there. We had 3 ranches. We ran about 1,000 head of cattle while we were there.
Wow.
So anyway, that was.
So he didn't get away from the cattle business.
Oh no, he was never gonna.
It was in him.
It
It's
was
in
in
him.
him.
No, it's bred in him. No,
Yeah.
you're never gonna get. He was never gonna be away from the cattle
Right.
business. So.
Yeah.
So once y'all got back, what was the next?
Well, while we were there, about a year or so before we decided to put the outfitting business on the market, I had ran into a friend of mine. I was kind of getting to the, knee deep in testosterone stage.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I've got 2 sons. I'm in an outfitting business, and I'm like, this is a lot of, testosterone here.
You need
And,
something to do to escape.
Yes. And so a friend of mine, our youngest son, was at the Lutheran school. That's
Okay.
where he went to school. And the lady I'd met there, she said she was a real estate appraiser. And she said, I need somebody to help me. I'm moving my office from home to a building that she had leased. And she said, I need somebody to help me with that. And you're really organized. And because we were on PTA together. And I was like, yeah, I'll help you with that. And so I helped her, organize, get the file cabinets over. And of course, I had a drill. I could put the desk together. She was like, I can't believe you know how to do that. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I can run a drill. And so I put
truck.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was like, yeah. So I put the desk together, and so then I was telling her about being a legal assistant, and then I had been before that. I worked at a bank and worked in the mortgage part of the bank. So it was kind of like, and the law firm I worked for, we did real estate law. So we did title policies and we did closings, and so I remember seeing appraisals, and I already knew about deeds of trust and warranty deeds. I mean, it was pretty much almost a natural segue
Yeah.
for me. And so she said, I think you could get your appraiser's license. You need to get that. And I was like, well, what does that involve? And she said, well, you have to apprentice. And that's why there's not a lot of appraisers. You have to apprentice with someone. You literally are with them 24/7 for almost a couple of years.
Mm.
And so, so I said, well, yeah, I'll see about this. And so I remember, Jason and I discussing it, and because I wasn't going to then be at the outfitting business. He was going to be there, taking payments and, having people sign releases and doing all that. And he was fine with it. He said, we've had our eggs in one basket for too long, as far as both of us
Right.
running the one business. And so I was like, okay. And I remember kind of backing up in about January of, that would be 2001, I think it was, or 2001. I remember calling my mom and saying, I just don't know if I want to go back to because in the summer we actually moved to the headquarters. It was at the base of Wolf Creek Pass, a beautiful place. And I said, I just don't know if I want to go back. And I said, I know I could walk in any bank tomorrow and get a job. I know I could work in any law firm tomorrow and get a job. I said, but that's not really what I'm looking for. I don't really know what I'm looking for. And so I called her in April and I said, oh my gosh, Mom, you will never guess. this opportunity. I said, it just fell in my lap. And she said, what have you been praying for? And I
Right.
said, oh my gosh, you're right. I've been praying for, because it wound up, Lynn her son went to school there, and her deal was family first. So we only worked school hours. We both took the boys to school in the mornings. We did appraisals during the day, and at 3:30 we were gone. And we both picked up our kids, and we were home. And so I was like, this is perfect. So then I went to CU in Boulder and got my appraiser. I took all my classes there, and then took my test in Colorado. And then we decided in the fall of '02 that we would put the outfitting business, just see what would happen. Well, it sold pretty quickly. And then we had already sold our house, and we had some land that we were going to build on. So we were actually renting a place. And we were like, you know what? Let's just go back. Just go back home. And because Texas was always home, and so we did. We went back home, and Texas has reciprocity with Colorado, so I was able to just transfer my appraisal license, and I hung my shingle out in the first part of '03 and never looked back. And Jason wound up, I helped him with the outfitting business as his assistant, because he had the outfitter's license. And then we came back to Texas, and he said, I held the license, and he helped me. So
That's great.
yeah, we worked together our whole time, our whole marriage. We've worked together. And I know for some couples it doesn't work. It did for us. We worked very well together, and respected each other's strengths and weaknesses, and but it was great.
Never even had a fight that whole time.
Oh,
There was
never,
never a fight.
never,
Just-
never. Just sunshine and rainbows
Right.
every day.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad we're in a
Yes,
almost 2 foot
almost
thick
2 foot thick, yes.
concrete
So
box. The
can't
lightning,
come through
yeah,
there.
can be
Yes,
dissipated.
Yes.
But
This is where the boys shake their head. They're like,
Yeah,
"Mm."
yeah, no. We just,
So-
yeah.
No, it was a real.
So
but
when y'all
that
got
is
back-
unique. That
Yeah,
that
it's
is
very
Yes.
unique.
Well, I look back now and I think about, when he passed away, and I thought, we actually were together more than most people are that are
Way more.
married even longer than we would be married.
Yes.
I thought we were together. I mean, we built a life, and made a lot of memories, and a lot of good memories. So
That's amazing. Y'all were able to complement each other's professional endeavors
yes,
back and forth.
he was very supportive. And then
That's so
while we
amazing.
were in Colorado, I was a precinct chair there. And then we had a good friend that wanted to run for county commissioner, and it was an open seat. And he said, I need a campaign manager, and I want you to do this. And I was like, okay. And so I was his campaign manager, and he won. And so then the next time the sheriff was up for reelection, and he had an opponent, and he said, I want you to help me with that. And so that's when you had the green bar paper, and you're printing all the voter deals out, and you're literally, doing the phone numbers, calling them. There is no apps or anything. There was no
Right.
cell phones like that. I mean, there wasn't even, that was before that time. And so I was already involved back then in the '90s, with early '90s and I've always voted. My first presidential election was for Ronald Reagan.
Mhm.
And I remember loving to vote for him. And I've voted for a Republican ever since. So, but anyway, that kind of gives you a little bit of idea. Then I was also president of the rodeo board there for several years. And actually, have you heard of the Red Ryder and Little Beaver comic strip,
No.
or the Red Ryder BB guns?
Yes.
Yeah, I know about
Okay.
that.
Well, the Red Ryder was actually a comic strip.
Okay.
And the guy that did that was Fred Harmon,
Mhm.
and he's from Pagosa Springs, Colorado.
How
So
about that?
they let us use the naming rights of that for the rodeo, and it was always known as the Red Ryder Roundup.
Yes.
And so I was president. I was on that board for several years, and then president 1 year. And so we were very involved in our community. We were on the Friends of NRA board. We held a banquet every year for that for years. And I was always the secretary. They always needed somebody to keep all the guys in line. And I've always told them I was their token woman on the board, because it was all these men. And but they needed someone to say, no, you can't do that, or we don't have the money for that.
So we had
But-
Mother Superior and Mama Rhonda.
Oh, yes.
Mm,
Yeah.
like that's how it works.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
I've
So-
actually seen art at the A.R. Mitchell Museum in Trinidad, and there's art of that rodeo.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Well, every year they let us use one of the the cover of the comic book as our rodeo poster.
Yes.
And they've got to where now they are collector's items.
Yes.
Everybody wants a,
Yes.
and I was able to be there on the 50th anniversary.
Wow.
And they actually called me back last year, no, in 24. Yes, in 24, they called and they said every year they do a Red Rider Award, or they don't do it every year, but they do a Red Rider Award. And they called me in May and said, we were going through all the old records and realized, when we became a nonprofit, you were the one that helped do all that. And I was like, yes. And they said, you've never gotten this award. And I said, it's been 20 years, And I said, well, you don't do it for that. I
Right.
was like, well, I'm fine. And they said, no, we really want to do this. And so, of course, I always am, like I said, God probably gets, real tired of me sometimes, but because I'm just always talking to the Lord about something. And I had actually been called just a few weeks before. A friend of mine in Colorado said, I want you to come visit, in July. And I said, well, it'll probably be July before I could probably get there. And she said, okay, I want you to come. Well, that was probably April or so. Mother's Day weekend, my daughter-in-law's there, Holly. And I said, I think I'm going to call Leslie and just tell her I'm not ready yet. That's going to be too hard. Jay going the first time without Jason. And we had so many good memories there and just so many great friends. And she said, well, she calls me mom a lot. She goes, well, Mom, that's up to you. If I can understand you wanting to wait. And so Memorial Day, 2 weeks later, I get this phone call that July 4th is when the Red Rider Rodeo is. And I was like, and I hung up the phone and I could see my husband. I thought, he is saying, he was a rip the Band-Aid off kind of guy. I mean, you just do it. You don't prolong it. You just do it. And I thought, you know what? He knew there would never be a good time. I would always put it off and put it off. But how do you tell people, well, I don't think I really want to come be presented this beautiful handmade buckle, and honored in this way.
Yeah.
And so I waited a couple of days and I called him and I said, okay, I'll be there. And so my youngest
for you.
son and his wife and my two little grandsons, went up ahead of them, but then they came and they were there. It's a 3-day rodeo, and all 3 days they were, it was on the arena, out in it's one of the largest outdoor arenas in the West as far as the size of the arena. It's a very large arena and it's beautiful background with the mountains and all. But so I just, everything you just see God's hand in everything. I see it in every day of my life. So that I went, and so now it's like I was able to go. My family was with me. So now the next time I go back, it's going to be, the first time's already happened.
Yes.
So.
Well, that's so good.
Yes.
That is.
Yeah.
And you honored him well in that experience.
Yes.
He
Yes.
was there with you.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
That is beautiful. So are you still doing appraisal work?
I pretty well suspended that in about July. I thought I could do some on this campaign, but you can't. And so I do have another appraiser. I have an appraiser that works for me, and she's pretty well taken on most everything.
So you mentioned campaign. So you were introduced to politics a long time ago.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But you were working with other people most of that time.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
When was the first time that you yourself decided, and not just when,
Yes.
but how did that happen?
Well, I was in Republican. I joined Republican Women, Nacogdoches County Republican Women.
Okay.
And I just was like, my gosh, I have found my people, And so I waited till my son was out of. I'm one of these. When we moved from Colorado back to Texas, I wrote 6 letters of resignation from boards that I was on, and only one had to do with my son. And there's 10 years between the boys. And so I was like, I knew myself, and I knew that I always give 100 to 110%. I mean, I was the people you call when you need something done. And I thought, you know what? This in dress rehearsal. I don't get this time back with him ever.
That's right.
And so I said, when he was 10 years old, when we moved back to Texas, and I said, whatever I do will involve him. And so he was involved in Little Dribblers basketball. We became basketball parents on the weekends. And then he got very involved in shooting sports. And so he was doing all these, matches on the weekends and trap and skeet. And so he shot, like I said, shotgun. And so we started doing that. We became the 4-H parents, with the shotguns and going to all these meets. And then he started team roping. And so which we always had horses. Chad, my oldest, did rough stock riding in high school rodeo in Colorado, and then he calf roped some. And then so we still had Chad's calf roping horse. And so Dylan started, roping, heading on that horse. And he was like, man, he just fell in love with it. And so then we start going to team ropings and all this all through high school. And then we became the rodeo booster club, college booster club parents, because he went to Panola on a rodeo scholarship
Okay.
and in Carthage. And so we became that. Well, probably between somewhere in there after high school and between college, I was like, okay, it's kind of mom's time. You know what I mean? As far as what interests me. And I was always keeping up with, city council races, county commission, local, and then of course always the national scale that we'd always see on TV. But I joined Nacogdoches County Republican Women, and immediately they were like, you can be the membership chairman. And I was like, okay. And so I did that. And then I think I was in there a couple of years and I became president, and I was president for 3 years in Republican Women. And my first year was in 2020 and COVID hit. I was installed in January, COVID hit in March, and we had about 45 members, I'd say. And by July, we had over 100 members. And so we have maintained that level ever since,
All right.
of over 100 members, that are actively engaged
That's
in
impressive
politics.
growth
Yes.
quickly.
Yes. And and I did run for county. I had already filed for county chair in December before Jason was in the hospital. And when he passed, it wasn't enough time to get my name off the ballot. And I will say, my heart was not in that campaign. I just was. I went to one or two little events, and it was like, but Joanne Schofter was running for state rep, and I was helping her campaign a lot. And I just think, you realize it's easier to help someone else do something. At that point, I was ready to help someone else. And Joanne won her campaign, won her seat. And so I was like, we had a victory in that. So, and then I just, like I said, was president of Republican Women. And then in July of, I want to say 23, I think it was June or July of 23, Janice Holt called me, who is the state rep, now in the Hardin. Do you know Janice?
Oh, no.
Okay. Janice called me and said, I'm going to run again, for the seat that was held by Ernest Bales. She said, but I'm on the state Republican Executive Committee, which I knew she was because she had spoken at our club many times, and I knew her and David Covey. And so she said, you're the first person I thought of to take my place. And I was like, wow. I mean, because I knew that was 18 counties. I knew it was, but I knew Nacogdoches was right in the middle. So I remember, Jason and I talked about it, and I said, what do you think about this? And he said, I think you do it. And I said, well, it's going to be a lot of traveling. He said, well, I love to drive. And so I said, okay. And so the next meeting, they voted me in as, the SREC votes on you at that point. And so I fulfilled her term, her unexpired term. But then Jason got sick. He was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis before that, but we thought we were having a handle on it, and things just didn't go our way. He got a lung infection. We were actually in Baylor in Dallas, so I was glad that we were at the best facility on earth for him. We were actually there being interviewed and, seeing if you were a candidate for a lung transplant. And
Wow.
and 2 days before our appointment, he developed a fever. And we just said, well, we'll just let him look at it at Baylor. And we got there on December 26th, and he passed away on January the 8th. And so it just wasn't like I said, as y'all all know, if prayer could heal everybody, we wouldn't have a sick person.
We'd have no cemeteries.
We'd have no cemeteries.
Yeah.
And I remember someone telling me that about children that are drug abuse. They said if parents could pray children out of that, we wouldn't have any. And I thought that's very true. So, but I was still on the executive committee, and so I just continued with that. But you're going to these meetings, and people pull you aside, and they're like, we need a conservative senator. We need this Senate district was 76% for Trump the last election in 24. And they didn't feel like they had conservative representation. And I said, well, let's look at this, bring me some names, and we'll kind of vet them, because you don't want to get behind somebody and go, oh, we didn't know that, you know. And so they kept saying, well, why don't you do it? And I was like, no, I like being the SREC. I love what I'm doing. And they just kept saying, and then other people from other parts of the state were calling me saying, you should do this. You really should consider this. And so, I mean, you're praying about it every time somebody calls you. You're just thinking, well, I don't know about this. And I also had to be very careful. I didn't want to be a replacement for the grieving process.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
and
very
that was very important to me, because I thought, is that what's happening here? And so I mean, it was a long process. And I just I just said, Lord, if this is what you want, you will open doors and I'll walk through those doors. And I did not pray to be a senator. I prayed for his will,
There you go.
because that's all we can do. And
That's profound.
And
I
that's
just-
when it became maybe an asset to your grief.
I think
Yeah.
it was,
And
because you have no idea the people that I have encountered in this journey, and the women that have had that you've talked privately to, that I would not share their stories right now. It's been amazing to me. And there's times I'll, I mean, all campaigns, you're like this,
Oh,
or
yeah.
roller coaster, and, you'll be about right here. And then my phone dings and I look at it and it's a phone number I don't know. And it's a Bible verse or a prayer. And it's somebody saying, just thought of you today. And I'm thinking,
Wow.
Yeah.
And I just, it does, it keeps you, it's that fuel you need to keep going.
It's very
And
humbling.
it
Yeah,
is,
Yeah.
it is. When you see when you see the Lord working, and it's only from him, it's not from man.
Yeah.
And I know the results of this race are the Lord's, but I am working hard every day.
Well, what I
Every
find to
day.
be fascinating is that you have an opportunity, regardless of the outcome of the race necessarily, win or
Yes.
lose, this is a growth process for you.
Yes,
And
yes,
I don't know for such a time as this, as you're being prepared for the next
yes,
incarnation of you.
yes.
Uh,
Well, that's a fact either way.
yeah,
Yes.
like this is
Yeah.
a big, reinvention
Yes,
for Rhonda Ward.
yes,
It's one of the things I teach in my grief program is at some point there has to be kind of a re-identity. And a lot of things remain, but a lot of things have to change.
yes,
It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, Jason's influence isn't as it was. It's
Right.
still there. It's just
Yes.
not as it was. So
Right.
that means there's a bit of a void. Well, what's
Mhm.
going to take that place?
Mhm.
And I can think of anything better than service, whether it's a
Right.
ministry or public service or
Yes.
whatever. But that's usually the best place to start.
yes.
And there can be self-care. I don't have a problem with that,
Uh-huh.
but there really needs to be an outpouring.
Right.
And boy, if you can find channels for that, people are,
Yes.
I think they win. And
Oh, yes.
that's what I've seen for a quarter century. That's when they win.
He
Okay.
says a quarter of a century. Now, what you didn't know,
Uh-huh.
I don't think you knew,
Uh-huh.
is Chuck is actually a grief therapist.
Okay,
That
I
is
did
his
I
specialty.
didn't know that. Okay.
That's
okay.
actually how Chuck and I became friends.
Okay. All right.
My wife and I
Uh-huh.
needed grief counseling, and
Uh-huh.
he was our counselor.
Oh my gosh.
And through that process, we developed a good friendship
Well, yes, you
and
can.
now a working
Yeah.
relationship. So
Yes.
Okay.
when he says all that stuff, he
Uh-huh.
doesn't say it lightly. He
Okay.
says it with extensive
I appreciate that.
experience.
Yeah. Well,
So-
good.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that's what
Start
I
adding
realized-
numbers. You're thinking, how long?
Yes. Where you realize you have to have a purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to have
Absolutely.
a purpose. And this is my purpose right now. And so
There you go.
and that's where I'm at with it. So I announced May 30th, and I just have hit the ground running, and like I said, it's a very large geographic area. It's it goes up to Athens or Gun Barrel City in Henderson County, and then all the way down to Orange, Beaumont, and over to Houston County, Crockett area, and then Toledo Bend, Sabine River is the eastern boundary. And it's very large. I was already covering it though for almost 2 years, so it really wasn't a shock to me of how big it is.
So you mentioned the SREC, and for our listeners and
Uh-huh.
viewers, would you tell them what that is?
It's the State Republican Executive Committee,
Okay.
and there are 31 Senate districts in Texas. And kind of a fun fact, 31 Proverbs, and 150 Psalms. There's 150 state reps. So anyway, that's what I've always been told is how Texas came up with their number. And of course the number will never get larger, only the number of people you cover does. Well, there's about 31 million people in Texas. So each Senate district covers about 1 million people.
Isn't that fascinating?
But the Republican Executive Committee has 31 men and 31 women from each Senate district. So I was the committee woman and Dan Hunt was the committee man. And he lives up in the Athens area. He has since stepped down to run for office. And so Lydia Covey took my place on SREC and Chris Bro took Dan Hunt's place. But we're like the board of directors and we run the party in between conventions because during the convention, the delegates run the party.
Right.
Because we're a grassroots organization. We're from the bottom up. We don't tell you who your presidential nominee is going to be. We let you pick it. And so during convention that week, they set the rules that we're going to go by for the next 2 years. They set the resolutions. It's just the rules and the bylaws of the party. And so, but in between that, we have meetings quarterly, usually in Austin. And in between that, we have Zoom calls. But at convention, the delegates all vote on the things that they would like to see the Republican Party, or rather the Republican elected officials tackle during that next legislative session. And it's our job then, we're then divided into those committees. And election integrity was one of the issues, and so was banning taxpayer-funded lobbying. And then property tax was actually it was just missed the cutoff by like 0.5%. Well, I'm a real estate appraiser, and our chairman is Abraham George of the Republican Party. And he said, let's go ahead and do a committee on property tax. That is just a huge thing.
Yeah.
And so I was on 3 committees and we read every bill that comes in that has to do with election integrity or property tax or banning taxpayer funded lobbying. And then we meet and we decide which bills fulfill the legislative priority. Which ones do the delegates want us to do? And then we send those bills to the House reps and the senators and say, these are the ones we're going to get behind. And we vote as a body, as a committee, but then we put it to the body to vote which ones we're going to support as legislative priorities. And that's how bills get the whole deal of stop sexualizing Texas children. That all started on the grassroots level. And banning the books in the schools.
Yeah.
That all started it. And that was all your SREC pushing that legislation and saying we're taking nothing less than this right here.
And I wanted the audience to hear that.
Yes.
Because they see the SREC stuff on social media. They
Right.
hear the abbreviation, the term a
Yes.
lot. And a lot of people have no idea. I've
Right.
served as a delegate. I've been
Uh-huh.
involved in all this
Yes.
stuff.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's great to educate
Yes.
the audience about this kind of thing.
Yeah, so that was well presented.
Thank you for
Okay.
that. So I've
Okay.
got a big question for you.
Okay.
Are you a success? Do you consider yourself successful?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
That was just a little hesitation,
Yes.
but you
Well,
said it.
Yes, because I just feel like you're a success when you're a follower of Christ.
There you go.
That's great. That answers the next question. I was going to
Okay.
ask you, what does it mean to you to be a success? And that's
It's a follower of Christ.
as
because
good as any. I couldn't imagine a better
Yeah, I
answer.
know where I'm going. And that's what, when you ask it, I thought, is he wanting to know, for my relationship with Christ, or is he wanting to know business success?
No, it doesn't matter.
And I'm
It's
like,
your
no, my
definition.
success is, I know where I'm going.
There it is. That's
Yeah.
what it means to you.
Yes, that's what it means to me.
Typically, when we ask that question, it helps show a person's core values,
Yes.
how they answer it.
Mhm.
We get some pretty interesting answers on that.
Okay.
But more than not, the answer is yes. The first answer is yes.
Uh-huh.
And then the definition of success varies
Okay.
according
Yeah.
to the person. But
Yeah.
but thank you.
Okay.
There's no failure in
Yes.
this.
Okay. Yeah.
So with that being said,
Mhm.
how has difficulties and failures presented opportunities for growth in your life?
Oh, I think the one with my husband passing away. You just realize that, and he was always a big proponent of life is for the living. And he would say that all the time. His mother actually passed away in October before he passed away in January.
Oh.
So we had already dealt with that, but she had Alzheimer's and it was very hard. I mean, she had been gone for a while, as far as who he knew as his mother.
Right.
but he was, and we'd lost some very close friends, at times. And then during COVID, we lost several classmates that we were close with. And he was just always I would tell him that he was the half glass empty person.
Mm.
And he would tell me I'm a realist. Only a guy would come up with that, I would say, don't be such a pessimist. That's what I'd say. And he'd go, I'm a realist. I was always more of I've always been more optimistic. I look for the best in people. Let's figure out a way to make this work, and he's just, he was always thought that, but I've looked at how we complemented each other.
That's your balance. That's y'all are the balance of each other.
Because if we both were that way, we would never think anything was going to go wrong,
That's right.
and
Well, this is a man who evidently lived with, dirty boots. So he's outside.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it is what it is.
It is.
If
And
it is flowing downhill, I can't change that.
no.
And so
And if that calf is dying, that calf is dead. And I would be like, can we save it? And he's like, no, and I was thinking, but I mean, that happened more times than I want to.
Oh yeah.
That I was like,
Mm.
it can't just die. He said, yeah,
Sure it can.
It can. It's not going to make it.
That's
And
right.
I was like, oh, okay, but yeah, it was, he was very much a realist. So,
Mm.
but yeah, it's that as what you asked the question, that has shaped me in realizing there's really not a lot in life that's going to happen that is going to, when someone asked me, what if very early on, what if the election doesn't go your way? And I said, well, the worst thing that's ever happened to me has already happened for my life right now.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll do appraisals the next day.
Mhm.
I mean, you give it your all. I'm definitely not doing it to lose. I'll tell you that much.
Mhm.
And, but you realize that,
Life will go on.
life will go on. Yes.
Well, I guess one of my
Yes.
responses to, and I'll just use
Uh-huh.
your campaign as an example. And now again, I'm being a therapist.
Mhm.
Kind of we get away with a little sarcasm,
Uh-huh.
and I bet, well, what does that mean? It doesn't go my way, So you mean like whether I won the seat or not? Because even if I don't, who's to say that I didn't gain? Who's to say I
Right.
didn't profit?
Yes.
And look at all the people you're meeting, the influences, and
Right.
and as Rob implied earlier, who knows what doors that's going to open next?
Yes.
And of course, ultimately, yes, I'm going to do all this work. I'd like to get the seat,
Yes.
but if I don't, it doesn't really mean
No.
so.
Yeah.
So sometimes they maybe come with a little pessimism too.
Yeah.
So
I just look at it as being obedient.
that's it. That's it.
And I was being, I have been obedient.
There it is.
And that's the way I look at it. And I know that he tests us, because I know there's been times in my life that I've thought, I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to tell that person about God. And then it's just like, you have to, and then you do, and you're like, okay, I did it. I listened. I was obedient. Somebody that you're just like, why do you want me to tell that person? I mean, you're just, because it's, it's not in our comfort zone,
Right.
to say, do you know the Lord? Or what's your relationship with Jesus? And they just kind of look at you, and then they just start talking, and you're just like, okay, I did it, and to me, that's the whole deal of being obedient. And that was the deal with this race. I put it off and put it off and put it off. And I just kept thinking, there's somebody else is going to come along. And then I was reading my Jesus Calling book that week in May, and I still have I've copied it and then laminated it, and it's in my car. Of you're wanting to determine the outcome, but you don't realize I determine the outcome,
And it's already done.
and it's already done. And so I remember reading that, because we all want to determine our outcome. That's human nature,
We want control.
we want control, and we want to know we're going to get that W, And so I was like, okay, I will do this. So,
And what we so often fail to see, and I know that you'll be able to relate to this, so often the loss is the win.
yes,
We just don't know it in the
Right.
moment.
yes,
And then you look back and you realize
yes,
that's what I needed to shape
Yes.
me to become this.
Yes.
yes.
And were it not for that,
hmm
I couldn't have been here.
Right.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
I would estimate that if Jason was here right now, he'd be extremely proud of you.
And everybody texts me that a lot. I get that a lot from old family friends, especially. They'll say he is so proud of you. And so, and he was always, I mean, behind the scenes saying, you know, he didn't talk a lot. And which that was another deal. We kind of, you know, compliment each other. He was more of a quiet guy. Now, if you got to know him, you know, he was actually very funny, because he was very funny. We called them Jasonisms. Some things he would say, and you would just think, who comes up with that? You know, who would look at that way? But he did. So we complimented each other a lot. So
That's good.
And
I have this idea that on more than one occasion, it's like, I need you to call them and talk to them about this. We can talk about what to say, but you're going to be the
yes.
voice for our family.
Yes.
Or if you're at a store, you're like, hey, go over there and ask them.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I was the talker in
Yes.
my marriage, and so that I got that many a time. Hey,
Uh-huh.
go ask that lady in that smock where to find this. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
you can talk to her, but I realized later
Yes.
that was my job
Yes.
because
Yes.
I could talk to anybody.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
playing your role.
Yes.
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 So thank you. Thank you for sharing your life with our audience, with us, through us. Thank you for the journey that you've been on so far.
I know. It's
And
been a
thank
journey.
you for
Yes.
offering yourself at the altar of public service,
Yeah,
because
yes, it's
that's what this is.
yes. It's you take the slings and the arrows, and I have a prayer tribe in Nacogdoches, and we met yesterday, and actually State Representative Joanne Schaffner, I believe she does a Bible study at the Capitol, and we were part of her prayer team, and we've now it's my prayer team, and but Psalms 91 is our Psalms, is the what we pray, and it's just it's so humbling to see people praying over you.
Isn't that something?
It is something. And I've been to several churches that have invited me to speak, and I'm just like, and I tell the pastors and I tell the congregation when they're leaving, be thankful your pastor let me do this, because there's a lot of them that just they don't want in the political realm.
Yeah.
And you have to remind them it's because of our free speech that you can speak about the politics in the church, you know. And so it's been amazing. And then at one of those churches, they prayed over me, and I was like, it's so humbling. It's so humbling. And just, I've usually been the control person. I was usually the person, you know, we need to pray over these people. And you never, and I remember, you know, in your prayer life, we tend to pray for other people. And there's times that I've had to remind myself to pray for myself, because, you know, I've got my prayer journal of the people I'm praying for, and I always make my notes when the prayer was answered. And I love that, you know, to be able to say,
Yes.
you know, that person was baptized on whatever date, or healthy baby born in the date, you know.
Yeah.
And but I don't know, but I think it's in all of us that we're not real good about praying for ourselves.
So with that in mind, on that
Yeah.
same sort of train of thought, you know, you helped a lot of campaigns, as you described, since the early 90s and you
Right.
know, going on through. And now you're the candidate in need of help and
Yes.
desire of help.
Yes.
So I'm curious, have there been any awakenings, like things you didn't
Yes.
expect,
Yes.
that as the candidate, it changes your perspective? As the worker, as the campaign manager, you know, you were trying to catch an overview of everything
Right.
going on and shield
Yes.
the candidate and doing this and that. Well, now you're the candidate.
Mhm.
What's different and what shocked you so far?
What has been the biggest shock is I announced on May 30th, and about a week or two later, I got an email from a man in Sabine County,
Mhm.
which is in my Senate district, and he said he wanted to meet with me. I had met him at some of the Republican meetings in Sabine County, and I knew who he was, and it's Jim Moyer. He's a Christian man, fine Christian man. And I didn't know that at the time. We'd never really talked about God or religion. We were talking politics, you know. And so he called and said, I want to talk to you. And I was like, okay. So my friend Kay and she's the one that drives everywhere. And thank goodness, because I do not need to text and drive at all. But anyway, we went over there, and he had already checked with some people, emailed people, and said, I want to help with your campaign. And I said, okay. He said, I would like to see a conservative senator before I die. and he's in his 80s. And he said, I know it's going to start off with $1 million. And of course, I'm sitting on the little sofa there, and I was like, okay. I knew he had donated to
Wow.
several campaigns, but nothing like this amount of money. And I had no idea he even had that kind of money. And so I was like, well, he goes, nope, I've already done some research. You have to have name recognition. You have to have a consultant. You've got to have this. And I already knew a lot of that. But the part that's the God thing in this is, I had already called Jessica Cologne. She was Trump's coordinator in 24. And I met her through doing some Trump trainings in 24 for Get Out the Vote for Trump when I was SREC. And then also, and a lot of SRECs don't have to do that, but I just knew how important it was to get Trump in there this time, or knew what happened in 2020. And so anyway, I was doing these Trump trainings, and I knew that Jessica was a consultant, but I didn't really know what all she did,
Right.
And so I called her and told her that I was thinking about this position. This was probably in April. And I said, just think about it. Let me know what, if that's something that you do. And she said, give me a week or 10 days. I need to do let me think about stuff. But what I liked is the first thing she said was, she said, well, now I will tell you, before I take on any candidate, I need to know where you stand are you pro-life? And I said, absolutely. She said, but how pro-life? I said, from conception to natural death. And she said, how pro-life? I said, no exceptions. And she said, okay, we can work together. And oh no, and then she said, and where are you on same-sex marriage? And I said, it doesn't exist. There's only a man and a woman. And she said, okay, I like that she asked me. It wasn't like, oh, I have this potential for a candidate now that I've gotten really into this just to make money. It was like, no, they have to have these core beliefs before I'm going to even sign up.
She didn't give you the ingredients. She asked what you had inside.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so she then said yes, that she called me back and said, okay, I think there's, because I asked her, is there a path? I mean, I'm not a Pollyanna. I mean, thinking, oh, I'm going to do this, but there's no path to victory here, And so she had done a lot of research and all, and she said, I think there's a path. I think there is. And I said, okay. And so I didn't even tell her about the phone call with Jim because I didn't know what it was going to be. And plus she's in Houston and I'm right there. I don't live an hour from him, where
Right.
Sabine County is. And so we drive over there. He hands me this email, and you know how you can see who's to and from.
That's right.
He got all
Yeah.
the trail. And he said, I talked to a friend of mine, and she reached out to a friend of hers that has more her pulse on the political world, and wanted to know what it would be for someone to run for Senate. And it's Jessica Cologne.
Jessica.
Yes. And I looked at him and I said, do you see who she reached out to? And he said, well, yeah, somebody. And he kind of looked over at me. He goes, yeah, some lady named Jessica. And I said, that's who I've hired as my consultant. And he said, oh no, I didn't know that. And I mean, and then you're just realizing, and there has been something like that on this campaign trail almost every day,
How about that?
That's
where
fascinating.
you just go, oh wow. And of course, I will have to say, because the people watching this, he was he was raised in Port Arthur, went to high school here, graduated probably in the late 60s for him, or early 60s for
Okay.
him to be the age he is, and got a scholarship to Rice University, and then went to California, founded a semiconductor company, had a business partner there, and then moved back to Sabine County in 2012. Take care of his mom. She passed away. He called him in California and said, I never liked it there anyway. I'm not coming back. So he retired from the company then. He owns no stock in that company. It is a worldwide company. It's publicly traded. It was founded in California, but its headquarters are Kirkland, Washington, and West Palm Beach, Florida. I've had all kinds of things. People asking me if I have money from China.
Oh, I was wondering why you were telling that part of the
reason
story.
why, because they do have locations in North America, South America, Europe, and some locations in China.
Okay.
And it's a lot on social media that I'm taking money from China.
So the guy, though, you said he doesn't have any stock
He
left in
does not
that
have any
company.
stock left in that company. And it's just
It was a personal donation.
it was a personal donation
From
of his,
that man to your
from me. Yes,
campaign.
and he has now since given me more money.
Wow.
And this is, I will tell for the viewers there, it's very hard. And I know we all, as Republicans, we're aggravated at a lot of Republican leadership.
Mm.
But it is very hard when you have an incumbent, or someone who's already been in that field, because all of your PAC groups, and your lobbyists and all, they're very incumbent friendly. And I mean, not my opponent has PAC money and almost $1.5 million, and he started with $1 million. I mean, we're probably going to wind up at, I know we're over 2 million, and it's just, I don't think people realize what it costs to run a campaign.
Mm.
And for all of you, for y'all doing even what you're doing, y'all even have it, you have more of a clue of what media cost when you do a media buy. And I have 3 media markets. Beaumont is considered the Houston market. Nacogdoches and all is considered the Tyler market. And then Henderson, which is Athens, is considered the Dallas market. So you're doing 3 market buys for media. It's those mailers that, and everybody gets their mailbox back on March 4th. We'll make that public service announcement.
So
Everybody
I'm
gets
going to
their-
go ahead and say thank God,
Yes.
because I'm going to tell you,
Mm.
my goodness,
Yeah.
not just y'all stuff, but I mean, it's
Yes.
every day
Yes.
Yeah.
we get some in our mailbox,
Yeah.
and the kids think it's fun.
Mhm.
They have no idea. Like, we have an 8-year-old,
Uh-huh.
well, he's almost 8, and
Yeah.
a 10-year-old,
Uh-huh.
and they get a kick out of it. Look, it's somebody else.
Yeah.
They really love it when it's somebody that's been on our show,
Oh, they
Yeah.
can say,
and they're
oh,
like,
yeah.
because the kids will put on YouTube on our
Uh-huh.
on one of our TV, the big
Yeah.
TV in our
Uh-huh.
living area, and they'll put our channel on sometimes.
Yeah.
And they get the biggest kick out of
When
it
they see
if
that.
there's something in the
Yeah.
mailbox
Yeah.
that they've seen on the
Okay.
TV. So
Yeah.
that time's coming.
Dad's
Yeah.
a celebrity, but
No,
Yeah.
Dad
Yeah.
knows people.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Yes.
sharing with us your
Yes.
journey, your perspectives,
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
your core values.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple more questions that I'm going to
Okay.
ask as we close,
Okay.
and then I'm going to present you with some stuff. But
Okay.
as a person who's offered themselves up for public service, we're allowing you, when we get to this point, we're going to allow you to close our show.
Okay.
So get your mind wrapped around that.
Okay.
You're going to be given the opportunity to thank the viewers and then ask for
Okay.
their vote, if you will. So before we go any further, Chuck, is there anything you'd like to ask?
Just compliment. I appreciate you sharing with us and with our audience these moments in your life where you have embraced just the repurpose.
Yes.
I mean, the core values never change, but the environment changes, the opportunities come along, and I like the word that you use. It does put us to the test. It draws out whatever's in there.
Oh, yes.
And if not so, if we see, I mean, you did well, but we see in other people not so good things come out, and you're like, oh, that's not good.
Right.
So you want some refinement in their life, but I appreciate you sharing that
Well, thank
with
you.
us.
And I like the repurpose.
Yeah,
Because I've read some books, but I like that phrase. So you always, like I said, you learn something from, but I like the repurpose.
yeah. Well, and life does that. I mean, the boys grow up and leave
Yes.
home. Okay, well, that
Yes.
makes a room, and something needs to take its
Yes.
place, and
Yeah.
Jason and other things
Yes.
like that. Even your careers.
Yes.
So
Yes.
but thank you, appreciate you coming on
Well, thank you.
and sharing more about you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
We very much appreciate it. So I've got 2 questions that we close every
Okay.
show with.
Okay.
They're a tradition, and then I have a presentation, a couple
Okay.
of things
All
to,
right.
to give you.
Okay.
You leave with souvenirs.
Okay.
So the first question is, if there's a person out there, a younger person, let's say they're 16, 17 years old, and they see this interview and they're inspired by you. Maybe they've
Okay.
seen you already,
Okay.
but then they see this interview and they're inspired by you. What advice might you give to them?
Don't take yourself so serious.
Ah,
Have fun.
that's good advice.
Never.
I think that was over
Oh.
your book.
It was, yes. Don't take yourself so serious, but always go with your gut.
Ah, yes.
Always go with your gut, because that's really, I told my boys, your conscience is really God. It's God saying you shouldn't be doing that, or you shouldn't do that. So always follow your gut or your conscience. Never, ever let someone tell you your Christian faith is anything less than.
That's good.
It is.
I love that.
Never, never.
So now I get to thank you, by the way.
Yes.
I get to ask you my favorite question.
Okay.
We've done nothing but ask you questions
Okay.
left and right,
Okay.
but I saved my favorite one for the last.
Okay.
So if you could go back in time
Okay.
and talk to your younger self right before you met Jason.
Okay.
Let's say you're 17.
Okay.
You met him at 17,
Uh-huh.
right? So right before you met him, and you could give yourself some advice. That's all you can do is whisper in
Uh-huh.
your own ear some words of wisdom. What
Okay.
might you say to yourself?
That everything's going to be okay.
That's pretty good.
That is.
Everything's going to be all right. Yeah. And don't worry.
Mm.
Don't worry. My
That's
husband
good.
used to tell me that I pre-worried. I think he made up that word.
You know, I'm sure we have fun with prefixes and suffixes often,
Yes.
and we'll come up with something that's like, I don't even know if that's a word. It's ours. We read books. We've
Yes.
been to classes.
Yes.
I can make up words.
Yeah.
Somebody else
Yes.
has. Why
Yes.
not?
Yes.
So
He would tell me that because I would be anticipating a conversation that might be difficult or something. He's over there, watching the news or reading the paper, and he'd go, "You're just pre-worrying," and I was thinking, "You're not even worried about this with me," and he's like, "No, I'm not." So,
You're doing it enough for both
like,
of
I'm
us.
doing enough for both of us.
Yeah.
So, yes, don't pre-worry. So,
So I have two gifts for you. The
Okay.
first of which, as you noted when you came in,
Uh-huh.
you're in a vault.
yes.
It is the vault of purpose. We have so
Okay.
named it.
Okay.
And as many vaults do, this vault has money in it.
Oh,
We actually found the tree that grows money.
the money.
And we're going to allow you to pick
Oh
one
my
of the
gosh.
one of the
Yes.
fruits of our tree
oh my
and keep it
goodness.
as your very own
Yeah.
souvenirs.
Oh my
You just
gosh.
grab
Okay.
it, pull it off,
Okay. All right.
and
Look at
Oh, I love that.
and that's just one souvenir. And then
Thank you.
the other thing I want to give you is it's actually part of our practice.
Uh-huh.
This is for you,
Okay.
and inside is the gift. The little bag is not the gift.
Uh-huh.
Although it's clever and cute, but
Yeah.
it's not the gift.
So inside there is a solid brass marble,
Okay.
and written around the circumference of this marble are some words, and I'm sure you're
Okay.
familiar with them. Do you know the golden rule?
Yes, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So you are the newest member in the Golden Rule Club, and inside there is a description
Uh-huh.
And a charge for you.
Okay.
Now, most people have heard the Golden Rule and know the Golden Rule,
Yes.
whether they go to church or not. They've heard it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But they don't know the rest of it. Did you know there's more?
Well, yeah, my mother was huge on you couldn't read one verse. She always said, read the verse above it, read the verse below it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always like, because it was like the one on that you get a lot from the LGBTQ community of when the said ye without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah.
Mother said, read the next verse, go and sin no more.
Yes.
And she said is it important? I remember that. And she was always very big on, she's still alive. So,
Oh.
And
yeah.
and you're not being challenged to read that
Okay.
microscopic print unless you
Okay.
want to.
Yeah,
You're
no,
more
I
than
can-
welcome to.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. No, it's good.
But
Yes.
the bigger picture, the bigger value to bring from this is the golden rule is intended to impart empathy
Yes.
into mankind.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't add the rest of the challenge of the golden rule, then you don't get the empathy. Because if all we
Yeah.
do is unto others as we would have done to ourselves, we're still only thinking about ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
So the rest of the golden rule is it's do unto others as you'd have them do unto you if
Mm-hmm.
the roles were reversed.
Reverse. I saw that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
empathy is
Yes.
the goal of the golden
Yeah.
rule.
There it is.
So now, you being the newest member of the Golden Rule Club, you are charged and challenged with carrying that on your
I will.
person at all times as a reminder that in every endeavor you build it
Yeah.
upon empathy. So thank
Mhm.
you for everything that you're doing.
Well, thank y'all.
And we thank our audience for
Yes.
allowing us to become a part of the
Yes.
pursuit of their purpose. And at this time,
Okay.
we're going to let you
Okay. So this is
close the
my
show.
little stump speech.
This is
Okay.
and you can tell them whatever you want if you want to
Okay.
tell them how you differentiate or how you earn their vote.
Okay. I'm Rhonda Ward. I'm running to be your next state senator. I am the conservative in this race. Like I cast my first vote for Ronald Reagan. I have always voted Republican. This Senate district was 76% for Trump, and all of you deserve a true conservative senator to represent the conservative will of the people. I am a mom. I'm a grandmother. I'm a small business owner, and I am a fighter for the people of Senate District 3. We need East Texas and Southeast Texas values in Austin and not the other way around. And we have to let Austin know that we have everything the rest of the state needs. Senate District 3 is ripe with timber and oil and gas and water and cattle, and the rest of the state needs it. And we need to make sure you have a senator that's going to preserve that for you. But if you want to monetize it, someone that's going to help you in that journey. And I will be the fighter that the people in this Senate district need to represent the conservative will of the people in this Senate district. Vote Rhonda Ward for state Senate, rhondaforsenate.com. And if change is what you want, I'm your change maker. Thank you.
Very good.
Question everything.